Kojiro's grip on his sword tightened. His eyes narrowed, burning with frustration. "You mock me with your lateness?" he snapped. I smiled. He was already beaten. The sun rose over Ganryu Island. My opponent stood waiting, sword in hand. He was ready to kill me, but I had already won. They called it the greatest duel in history. A clash between two men whose swords had never tasted defeat. But the battle was won before it even began. I was late on purpose, knowing that patience is a weapon of its own. When I finally arrived, Sasaki Kojiro was already angry, already unbalanced. That was his first mistake. He drew his long sword, Monohoshi Zao, the drying pole, a blade nearly as tall as I was, a weapon designed for reach, for power. He struck, but I had already read his movement, already seen the arc before it began. One step, one swing. My wooden sword cracked his skull, and before he could react, it was over. That day, I became legend. But this is not just a story of victory. It is a story of my life, my path, and the philosophy that guided my every step. I was born in 1584, in a time when Japan was drowning in war. My father, Munisai, was a warrior, but we were not close. My lessons came from the world, from survival, from the knowledge that in battle, there is no second place. At the age of 13, I fought my first duel. My opponent was a fully grown samurai, a man trained in war. He underestimated me. I killed him. But I was not always invincible. Once, a blade nearly took my life. I saw my own death in my opponent's eyes. That was the day I learned. The mind is the true weapon. From then on, I sought only one thing: mastery. Not of swordsmanship alone, but of life, of strategy, of the mind. A warrior who relies only on his weapon is already dead. I understood that early. I traveled across Japan, challenging the greatest swordsmen. One by one they fell. I fought using two swords, a technique unheard of at the time. Why limit oneself to one blade, when two could strike like lightning? I did not fight for honor. I did not fight for wealth. I fought to understand. Understanding rhythm, movement, and the mind of an enemy. This was my true path. The blade was merely a tool. A warrior who knows himself needs no weapon at all. Each opponent was a teacher, each battle a lesson. I fought warriors of the Yoshioka clan, defeated the entire school in Kyoto. I faced skilled ronin, samurai of great houses, even entire groups at once. Victory was never about strength. It was about understanding rhythm, timing, distance, and above all the mind of my enemy. In my later years I turned to teaching, to philosophy. War is not won by the sword alone. It is won by the mind. I wrote the Book of Five Rings, a manual on combat, but also on life. Even today, business leaders study my strategies. Just as a warrior must predict an enemy's strike, an entrepreneur must anticipate his rival's next move. It teaches the way of strategy, the importance of adaptability. Water takes the shape of its container. A warrior must be the same. Do not rely on weapons. Rely on yourself. Do not think with hesitation. Think with certainty. If you see nothing beyond the sword, you will die by it. I lived as a warrior, but I did not die by the blade. The greatest battles are won in the mind, not on the battlefield. I never took a lord, never swore fealty to a master. I was a ronin, a wanderer, but I was free. My name has become legend. Some call me the greatest swordsman who ever lived. Some say I was nothing more than a killer, a man who valued combat over honor. Others believe I avoided real battles, preferring controlled duels over true war. Let them say what they will. The blade speaks louder than words. But what is greatness? Is it victory? Is it wisdom? Perhaps it is neither. Perhaps it is simply the ability to walk one's own path without fear. That is the way of Musashi.